Bitcoin. It keeps rising into the stratosphere. Why? It's insurance against idiots and authoritarians. Back in July, I recommended that everybody buy Bitcoin. Here is a link to the original video so that you can see. Basically what I stated is the fact that the market should be going down. When you have businesses that are shutting down, nothing economically is being produced, when people aren't paying rent, the value of land and housing should be going down. Now, why did everything jump? Because the government just started to print money. Now, the USA is the one country in the world that really, maybe along with Europe, that can do this, because the United States dollar is the world's reserve currency, is the store of value that is accepted by everybody around the world. Now, when you deter people from being business, when you shut businesses down and they cannot provide for themselves, when they are not producing, when you are literally throwing out milk into a field because you don't have the means to get it to market, and slaughtering pigs and letting them rot, then there's nothing being produced economically. And money must be exchanged for goods and services in order to have value. When you just exchange money and you just print it out of thin air and exchange it for absolutely nothing, it has no value. And that's what the government's been doing. Again, the government in the United States can get away with this for a temporary period of time. However, this is going to cause inflation. Where it's caused inflation is in the value of real assets. So people are flooding their money into housing. They are flooding their money into stocks that can raise the prices, and commodities and stuff like that. You've seen the price of oil rebound, and also in Bitcoin. And this is why Bitcoin has gone up, because what it is, it's insurance against idiotic policies like this, because there's a limited supply of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is kind of like the digital gold of today. But really what it is, it's just insurance against idiocy. And this is what the Democrats, for example, that are shutting down all their states and shutting down all productivity, despite the fact that you have South Dakota, which hasn't shut down at all, which is far below other states in terms of the mortality rate and the number of cases that it has per capita. Same with Florida, which isn't that much worse off than, for example, than California. Meanwhile, California has shut its businesses down while they've raised taxes, and Florida has kept their businesses open. Which in the long term is going to be better off? Florida, I'd imagine. That's definitely my prediction. Nevertheless, people are flooding their money into the cryptocurrencies of the world, because you can, if they are a store of value, there's a limited supply of them that is fixed by computerized programs, and people have now agreed that Bitcoin is literally the gold standard, literally and metaphorically. The US dollar used to be based, you used to be able to exchange it for gold. That disappeared, that they just turned it into a fiat currency. However, Bitcoin, there is a limited supply of it, so you know that it can't be devalued. And what's happening is that people are devaluing the dollar, and they're managing the government incredibly poorly. And you're going to see more of this under the Biden administration as they bail out the states that did not control, for example, Minneapolis, Minnesota, when they don't control and they let people burn down the cities. And Trump says, no, you guys made an error. You guys have to figure out a way to pay for it. Biden's just going to open up the federal coffers more and more. You're going to see more money just being given away in exchange for nothing. And people just are, the money is going to flooding into the system, and it really doesn't help the lower paid citizens. It really goes to the very wealthy, which is one of the huge problems, which is going to cause greater wealth inequality, unfortunately. And again, the price of assets, this is why housing, despite the fact that people aren't paying rents, is going up in value. I mean, commercial real estate, you have businesses that are that are renting from you that literally can't afford to pay you because they're not allowed to conduct business there. So you'd imagine that based on this, based on the fact that there's an outside possibility that coronavirus might extend out into the future, that the prices of these places would go down, but they're not, because the printed money finds its way to the top. Meanwhile, the pensioner, the people that have saved up in cash, the people that are on a fixed income are going to see a limited amount that their money can purchase them, because the prices are increasing. And this is just the way that things go when you print and you flood the system in with money that is worth absolutely nothing. If, for example, in Weimar, Germany, they just did that, and the real beneficiaries are the people that take on lots of debt. And who takes on lots of debt? It's the corporations. We're talking about like Kraft Heinz, or a General Electric, that have to pay out these legacy payments, or that took on massive amounts of debt in order to expand, and they're going to be able to pay back in dollars that aren't worth nearly as much as when they borrowed them. Basically, it's a corporate bailout much more than it is for the individual person. And again, the people that are smart with money, with assets, want to see the value that is protected, because money and wealth is kind of keeping track of how much labor or how much goods and products and services you produce that you can exchange with somebody else. But with the money flowing in, that value, the value of the nominal dollar, is decreasing. What keeps that in check a little bit, of course, is productivity. When you're able to produce so much more because of new technology, and that radically changes the amount that is produced, that kind of offsets the printing of money, which is why you haven't seen skyrocketing inflation. But nevertheless, the inflation is taking place in real assets, and Bitcoin is now considered today to be a real asset and a store of value, which is why it's jumped from $8,000 when I originally recommended it back in July to, I think it was $36,000 when I checked it earlier. So that's a little bit about Bitcoin and why the valuation has risen. And if they continue to print money, it definitely will rise, because once again, it's insurance against idiocy and authoritarianism. So what I mean by authoritarianism, just to elaborate on that point, is that there are capital controls. If you try to send your money overseas, then it's not really your money to send. It's within the purview of the government about where they let you send it and how much they allow you to send. So there are capital controls. That's a lot harder to control with a decentralized network, which is Bitcoin. So you're able to move money around. People in China, for example, are taking advantage of it. There are very, very strict capital controls in China. And so that's why a few years ago, when Bitcoin really started ballooning in terms of the amount that it was worth in terms of US dollars, is because the Chinese were buying it up as a way to send their wealth abroad. Also, this is why the rich Chinese are buying up real estate sight unseen on the West Coast and in New York and the United States, because they just want to move the money where there are less capital controls and a government that is far less authoritarian. Although that's changing pretty rapidly if you see freedom of speech in the Biden administration, etc. But another story for another day. Again, Bitcoin, insurance against idiots and authoritarians. That's why it's increasing. When you see that going on, when you see the idiocy, when you see the encroachment of authoritarianism, Bitcoin follows suit, opposite way, goes up. So, whatever freedom of expression that you have, if you have a thought, use it to leave a comment. Use your First Amendment rights. Turn that like button blue. Just smash that like button. Enjoy smashing that like button, and have a fantastic, fantastic day. Peace out.